All right, thanks for being here. The presidents, former President Trump, current President Biden, are headed to the border today. This still fascinates me, this whole battle that's coming up, and maybe I'm too fascinated by it. But and I'm again making assumptions that they are going to be the nominees for their party. They both haven't, cleared their primaries yet, but the handwriting seems to be on the wall for both of them. We're going to talk more specifically about elections in the next hour, specifically the issues that both candidates are facing. But as far as the border goes, the American people are fed up. We know about the billions of dollars that are being spent. The city of Denver is closing aid facilities. We know that Casalitas here in Arizona, it's an NGO or a non-governmental organization, the government funding to house people in this country illegally. And I'll tell you, when they call them asylum seekers, I am someone, and I don't know that this conversation happens. I know there's not time in the soundbite world we live in. There's a difference, like, even here on Arizona's Morning News, they do such a great job, but they don't have the time that I have to expand on a topic. And now mine's opinion, theirs is journalism, but it's a different format. So I don't know that there's the time to explain some of these things. But when you look at what's happening, these asylum seekers, we know the statistics are very clear. The vast majority of people that are crossing our southern border and claiming asylum have illegitimate claims, and they know it, but they're told what to say and how to say it. When they get here, they are saying the magic words. They're put in a line that is years long. And this is, if you look at what we did with the Dreamers, I'm scattered a little bit. I'll get back to the visit in a moment. But the Dreamers were created because, decades ago, families crossed our southern border. Our government turned a blind eye to it. Whether you agree with it or not, that's what happened. People were allowed to establish lives without properly coming across our border. And so they came across the border. They got jobs. They went to work. They bought homes. They raised their children in American schools. Their children don't know any other country but this one. They are in all ways, except for their birth certificate or social security number or citizenship papers, these adults now that were brought here as children are Americans. We still haven't resolved that issue. But here we are creating what will be the next generation, and here's why. With a waiting list of 2, 3, 4, 5 years for people to get an asylum hearing, what's going to happen with those people? They're going to put down roots. They're going to develop relationships. They're going to have children. There's no way they're going to be sent out of this country. Many of them may not show up for an immigration hearing, but are they going to be deported? What do you think is going to happen 5 years from now? And in 5 years, when these hearings come up and people don't show, and then they get arrested, or if they do show up and the government says you do not have a legitimate claim to asylum in America, and they say, well, I'm married and we've got a business and we've got children, and it's a mess. It's creating a mess, and we all understand it. And that's the mess to the immigration system. The other part of it is we've got things happening all over the world where asylum is necessary. So you've got the smaller number of people that are entitled to asylum by American laws and by American kindness, and they're waiting in that line 5 years later to have their status finally justified by our government because they're in a line that they shouldn't have to be in. So we all understand that's part of the issue. The border security problem here with the potential of terrorism, with the other things that are happening, yes, crime that is being committed. But so now you're going to have two different people at the border today. You're going to have our current president, who is had to be on the defensive because of what's happening at the border. So he is going to go to Brownsville, Texas, and I believe this with all of my heart. He is going to blame Donald Trump. He's going to blame Donald Trump. He's already done it, and blame MAGA Republicans because Donald Trump, in their minds, Donald Trump is pulling the strings. And so Donald Trump convinced Republicans in the Senate not to be on board with a bill that could have moved forward, that could have, if they didn't like some things, and this is all true, by the way, that if it had gotten to the floor for debate in the United States Senate, that there was an opportunity for amendments to be brought forward, and they didn't do that. Well, it was Democrats that did it as well, but he's going to focus on the Republicans killing this at the behest of Donald Trump because Donald Trump wants chaos at the border so that he can try to win in November. It's going to be a hard sell because this has been going on for 3 years plus. And for 3 years, we heard from this president and from everybody that works in this administration that there is no crisis at the border. As a matter of fact, and I should have, but it would be a waste of time because you've heard it, but I just think it would be interesting. The number of times the Vice President of the United States, the Homeland Security Secretary, the White House Press Secretary, and the President himself have said the border is secure, the border is secure, the border is secure. And then all of a sudden, in January of this year, we start to hear, no, it's not. Now we're hearing from them that it's a crisis. Crisis at the border, crisis at the border, crisis at the border. And the only way to solve it is with the very first draft of a piece of legislation. Why would, and I mean this sincerely, if it was the other side of the aisle, they wouldn't. Why would anybody at this point trust that this president has a plan that would fix the problem at the border and that he seriously wants to shut the border down to the extent that we control who comes and goes? Not shut it down and not allow anybody in, but we only allow in legitimate asylum seekers. That there is something that happens, whether it's remain in Mexico or whatever you want to call it. Why would anybody believe that this president would turn on a dime and all of a sudden be... Now, I'm not saying he can't do it, and I'm not saying he couldn't convince the American people, but he believes, and the administration believes, that he is just going to shout one day, yes, there's a crisis, and here's how we're going to fix it. Vote for this. This is the only way to fix it. And after 3 years of what we've seen, that we should just blindly believe that that's what he's saying. But that's what he's got to try to sell at the border today. The border has become such a crisis that even the people in his own party and then prominent members, governors and mayors of big cities and big states, deep blue states, are furious at the way this is being handled. Denver is not a conservative city. No, not by a long shot. Chicago and the state of Illinois surely isn't. Neither is Massachusetts. Neither is Washington, D.C. Neither is New York City or the state of New York. And they all are clamoring for how bad things are. So this president has got to sell to the American people that he wants to close down the border while not alienating his base who thinks that's a horrible idea, and sell to the American people that the only reason why he hasn't closed the border is because Donald Trump interfered in a piece of legislation. That's got to be his plan. And I don't know how he's going to be able to, or if he is going to be able to pull that off. It's going to be fascinating to see when we start getting sound bites from those visits.
Thanks for watching The Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch the first season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.